to attend the meeting, and I'm not trying to step into that. My main concern is that I just think that when they need to address the board, they should come and address the board, and other than that, not. The other thing I want to bring up is just what we talked about tonight. If we go with the audio system, we're going to have 7 microphones. So there won't be microphones over there to accommodate that. But there will be a public input microphone, which they could come sit down and present and be on the audio system the same. Because one of the problems is once we go to an audio system, those people that are not on a microphone are going to seem really quiet, especially for video or anything like that. So we're all going to have to be more careful about that.
I'm perfectly fine with the configuration the way it is. I think that it incorporates the collaboration that we have going on here. We're trying to work together. They're the experts in the field. I need to know their input. I think it's a little bit more putting them out there. It becomes less collaborative for all of us. I have no problem with them with their laptops getting their work done or whatever it is that they're doing on there, and that's my stance on it.
I've been to many Manchester school board meetings. Not that we have to do what Manchester does, of course, but and it is done with principals and the directors and everything in the audience, and they speak when they have to, and they get called up to speak. I don't see any reason why they should have to be here either. If they want to be at home, they could. I mean, I don't know, or in the audience, and when they have something to say, they'll speak there. I don't think we should have to require them to be here. And the configuration to listen, to hear, and to see the school board, I think would be a lot better if it wasn't. The only one thing I would say is I think you need to have more than just the superintendent up there, maybe the business administrator also up there in the configuration. And well, how they do it in Manchester is they share the mic if they have to speak between the two of them. But I think we don't need to require them to up there. I don't think they'd want to be up here if they didn't feel they had to be.
To be honest with you, it's part of what my recommendation. I asked the superintendent, how did it come about? How did the principal start coming in? That's the way it was.
Yeah.
When the superintendent got here. So again, regardless of how this configuration works out, I think we need to address that issue as well. The fact that they're here, and we normally ask or request information ahead of time when we need.
Another kind of sensitive issue that I would bring up, and I've heard this from my constituents as well, is it's very daunting to come to the public input. Well, we don't even have a table, but to come to public input. And if that person from the public has something that they want to say that regards the operation of one of the schools, and I'm not saying that our principals are intimidating, because they certainly aren't, but it's very easy for the public to be intimidated. We do this, well, we're starting to do this every 2 weeks. They come in very nervous, don't know the procedure. They're trying to approach the board and talk to the board, and the principal of their child is right there. And so many people don't want to, they want to criticize in front of anybody, but that's kind of the way it is. I mean, I've done it. We need to make people comfortable. The other point I would make is this is a school board meeting. I mean, we are here to communicate with each other, and then we ask the experts when we need that, but it is our meeting. And I think the more that tonight, I think, when we went through the audio system was a perfect example of how we worked together and informed each other and consulted with the people here. That wouldn't end because likely Matt would have been here tonight because that was on the agenda. He probably, in my plan, would have just been sitting at the table during that conversation versus sitting over there. So I don't think that it really changes our ability to access their knowledge or anything like that. I think it just makes the meeting a little bit more of a school board meeting, and I hope that we can bring the public into it more. Thank you.
Tricia?
uh, Yes, it is very intimidating to come and speak to the Hooksett School Board, no matter when you speak. But if someone is a concern with an administrator, that's not a school board activity. That should be addressed with the superintendent, who is their boss. We shouldn't be taking complaints from parents about something happening in a building. They should be discussing that with the superintendent in a more private venue. We're a policy-setting board, we're not an administrative board. We don't administer the Hooksett School District, they administer the Hooksett School District. I think that's an unrealistic expectation that you would want a parent to come here if they had a complaint about something that was happening in the building.
May I answer that? My comment wasn't that they would particularly have a problem with their child or something like that. I'm talking about the way things are managed, you know, the way maybe there's been a lot of discipline issues at a school or something like that that they want to put into the school board. I want to make it as welcoming as possible for people to feel comfortable expressing whatever opinions they have to the school board, because sometimes, yes, if they want a resolution, I understand that they need to call Dr. Littlefield and go over it, but sometimes people want to give their opinion. They don't like the new policy. They don't like this or that. Well, I think it's good for us to understand that and get that opinion from them. It doesn't mean that we're going to rectify it for them, but I want to be able to hear them, and I want them to be part of the meeting as much as we possibly can, because we all represent the public. Each one of us is one piece of the public. So I think we need to do as much as we can to bring them into the meeting.
But I guess it was said that it was done because that's how it was done before, but can I ask Dr. Littlefield, how do you feel? Do you need to have them here? What difference would it be if they're in the audience to you, or if they wanted to be home?
I agree with David, it's a board meeting. So it should be whatever facilitates the work of the board. And I agree with Tricia, you're a policy-making body. I need no help administering the school district. I'm capable of doing that on my own. So whatever works for you. I think over time, the relationship has been collaborative. And their presence is relationship building with the people who go into the schools every day. There are other ways of doing it. It would not be my intention to emulate Manchester in any way. I like this, but I'm not a member of the board. If I were doing it differently, then based upon tonight's agenda, I would have had one person here. And that would be me. I would not have had any of the principals, the media director, the sped director, the assistant superintendent. I would have the business administrator, because we had a manifest to approve. It will change the nature of the interaction, it will change the nature of the relationship. But it's your meeting, and the relationship should be what you need in order to intelligently set policy. So if that's the direction we go in, I will not have the administrators here at most meetings. It just changes things.
Is your sense that they want to be here or don't want to be here?
It's
I'm sorry to
sense-
talk about them in the third person. I'm here right now.
It's my
I'm just
sense-
saying they might have better things to do.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's my sense that when we're conducting business that has an impact on teaching and learning and the intellectual development of young minds, they want to be. When it's something else, they probably are more productively involved in
Well said.
Yeah, just another facet to this is we're going to have to vote here in a minute whether we go longer. That's a whole other issue, because they have worked all day. You know me, I like to go long. If the 5 or 6 of us are saying, hey, we're good for another hour, let's do it. But we really have to be considerate of the other people that are sitting at this table that have to, go back and go to school tomorrow. I mean, it would eliminate that part. I would also be willing to move them up in the agenda because they're working. And if, we needed Matt tonight, we moved the sound system up to something near the beginning of the agenda so that he could go home. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that kind of, accommodation. And I certainly would welcome anybody that wants to stay, especially if we get a sound system, sitting in the audience. They certainly are going to get all the details of what we're doing, just as if they were sitting right here. So I think it also lets them, if they decide they want to go home at 8:30, like the rest of the audience, they can just take off. It's a little awkward if somebody gets up right now and walks out because they're already seated at the board, at the table.
I just wanted to make you aware that it's actually, according to our school board code of conduct and procedures, it's actually all board meetings shall conclude by 9:30 unless extended by a 3/5 vote. So we're not approaching 9 o'clock, it's actually 9:30 per our policy manual.
I thought it was 2.5
I
hours.
thought we changed, yeah, it is,
Wow.
number 11. All board meetings shall adjourn 2.5 hours after the roll.
Am I in the
What's it
SAU
called, the roll?
section? I'm sorry.
It's 2.5 hours.
What page is
2. Number 11.
that?
Yeah.
No, I'm in a different document. Sorry. That's the
But anyway,
SAU,
we're
just so
on
you're
the,
all on.
Is there a motion?
Well, no, there isn't, and I don't know, I mean, we're in discussion about configuration now, so,
If I may just speak to that, I didn't want to make a motion to start the discussion because although I made this document, I am not hard fast on one exact thing. And that's why I wanted to kind of get where the board was with this. So that's why I didn't want to start out with a motion.
Could I make a motion? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
motion anytime.
If I could make a motion to replace or to have the school board meeting layout as submitted by Mr. Pearl, except to include the business administrator at the meetings. I'm sure she wants to be here. But go with this configuration otherwise.
I would second that for discussion. I would just like to comment on Mike's motion that I don't want us to take a motion that says the business administrator has to be here, because I think that's the superintendent. All I'm really talking about is who's sitting where. Of course, he can have whoever he needs here. So I really wouldn't want to support that, because I don't think it's our place to say who he brings and what, so forth. So
Yeah. Do we need a business administrator for every meeting?
that,
You don't? Okay.
well,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not the chair.
Oh, no. We're getting a little out of hand. I did raise my hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
I figured the question, Mike.
I don't know. Do we use the,
No,
does the
I'm
business
ready.
administrator need to be at every meeting?
No. Tonight, to be perfectly honest with you, tonight, if the rules had changed and I was making a decision, I would be the only one here. Well, maybe Matt, because I knew we were going to talk about the audio visual, but other than that, there's nothing here that I wouldn't be able to handle. What I wouldn't be able to do is things that were unanticipated. And maybe that's good, because maybe that helps us to stick to the plan and stick to the agenda.
Well, I'd like to amend or change my motion to read without the business administrator and to submit this layout for the future board meetings.
We have a,
Can I change that?
why don't we just withdraw everything? I'll withdraw my
Withdraw
second.
Withdraw my motion.